Today's inspiration comes from my friend Mirelle, or MirelleTheGemini as she's known on social media. Mirelle is a fantastic musician and composer, and her production has tons of groove. Check this out. I wanted to invite Mirelle on the show today because we both have a mutual admiration for the space between music. And I think she can help us today get to a track that really knocks and swings, but with minimal elements. Mirelle, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Will, for having me and also giving me the opportunity to be on your channel.
So not many people know this, but you and I actually have some crossovers in our musical journey. That being that we're both classically trained, right? But we kind of gravitated to the bedroom production DAW world later on in our lives. Do you want to tell the audience a little bit about your journey so far?
So yes, that is correct. I am classically trained. I started taking piano classes at the age of 6. And after taking classes, I realized this is a passion of mine that I want to start pursuing in my future.
Okay, so you studied at college?
I was going to college for biomedical engineering, but
wow.
then my inner child just kept telling me, just drop out and do music. And so
Yeah.
here I am.
I'm a huge hip hop nerd, and I can kind of sense that in your work as well. What kind of sounds do you gravitate towards, and how do you go about starting a beat?
What has brought me to my current sound is my heavy influences with neo soul, R&B, hip hop, and also G-funk. But to be honest, I mostly create whatever feels good to me. So for me, I usually start off with a drum break or messing around with a drum break or making a drum break. That usually sets a good foundation of a good groove in your beat. Usually having a good groove and a good chord progression or a good bass line will let the inspiration start rolling.
All right, so that's a good place to start. Why don't we build a drum break? I've got something in mind already, actually. So I'm using a similar beat to your song that we heard in the intro, and I've got kind of a kick pattern that's on beat, off beat, with a couple of ghost note kicks towards the latter bars as well. Trying to keep it as humanly possible with playing this kick before the next downbeat, but it always comes back on beat on that first bar. This is something that we looked at in the count video if you haven't checked that out. I've also layered the counts clap and this really dry, almost like pancake snare. I also stole the perks that I used in my last episode. Just changing the pattern slightly, but if it's not broken, you enjoy the percussion sounds, you can always recycle them and use them again. Is there anything from your classical past life that plays a role in your modern production?
Surprisingly, I haven't really incorporated my classical training into my beat yet, or maybe I just subconsciously do it.
Right.
Because it is kind of second nature for me.
For the audience, I think it's interesting that you said you don't really do it consciously. One of the things that I do now that is almost unconscious is to make sure that my hi-hats sound like they're played by a real person, because it's a dead giveaway if you use the same sample and they're quantized for your hats. This is what I have going on. I actually used the same hat that you had in your track, Mirelle, from the intro, and I just isolated that hat and pitched it down and then warped the beats, transients forward, and brought that envelope down to 37. Now on the track itself, I've got the EQ8 followed by the utility, and I've got this LFO here, which is mapping to the gain and is mapping to the frequency of the EQ. And what this does is over a rate of half a bar, it just keeps the low frequency oscillation seesawing from side to side, so it sounds like a live hat. If I play this without the effects, my hi-hat sounds like this. So kind of unquantized, but pretty much all the same velocity and sound. If we turn that LFO on, it sounds like this. So the EQ is just bringing out a few different frequencies, and I like to imagine that like the drummer applying more or less pressure on the hi-hat pedal But the LFO is also changing the gain over the rate of half a bar as well. So the downbeat is often louder than the rest of that half a bar. And then we've just got a little bit of side chain compression. So the kick sounds like it's getting through the mic a little bit more than the hats. Actually, on that note, Mirelle, how do you feel about quantizing?
I don't really like quantizing. I'm not lazy. I just choose not to quantize my stuff.
Sure, yeah.
But what I like to do is that I like to move with the music. Definitely bob your head. Just make sure that you can feel that groove.
All right, so speaking of unquantized, I could probably make my bass a little bit more loose and human-like. I've got this lovely Moog patch that I've been using from Synth Hacker here, which I think people can download from Splice or Synth Hacker's website. R-Bass to help pull it out of small speakers, and a little bit of sidechain compression, link to the kick there. And I think I want, let's see how it sounds. Something like that. That was a bit wonky, but let's see how we do. And then maybe some keys. And then where should we go? Maybe there? Oh, yeah, that sounds good. And on this, I've just got the electric piano from Ableton and then a little bit of auto pan automation as well. There you go, that's what that looks like. If you're not on the Patreon and you won't be downloading these stems, we're just in the scale of G minor there. Feel free to steal those chords. I don't want to make this too cluttered, but I think we should accompany this instrument a little bit, just with maybe like a top line. So we've got just the basic brush bells. You can find that in Operator. I'm just going to play with like a top line melody that complements those chords. So G, and then F C, F C D, there you go. And then something like this. Yeah, something like that. Okay, so that's the beat, but you kind of caught my attention with the video that I showed in the introduction, and it's clear that space is integral to your mix. Do you have any advice as to how beat makers should use space in their arrangement? Or maybe to put that a better way, do you have any systems in which you check to make sure that your beat isn't too cluttered?
I started to produce covers of songs, and then I realized what is in that song. Sometimes it's only like 5 tracks. And you only need like drums, bass, guitar, and a piano, maybe something else for a counter melody. And that's all you need.
Got this lovely plugin from Ample Sound here. It's called the Semi Hollow 2. And I've just tied the wah pedal to it. And as you can see, the heel toe is going crazy there. And that's because I've tied this LFO to that heel toe and just made sure that that's always wiring. And that'll just keep going non-stop. Very simple chords with the guitar here.
Every musician says less is more, but how will you know what's less and how will you know what's more? So usually from my experience, from one of my first sessions with an artist, I overproduced for that artist. And then I started to take out more elements that was in that beat to make it complement that artist. After knowing that, I realized that I didn't really need that much in a beat, unless an artist is not going to be on it.
Mirelle, you made a great point on if the beat's too cluttered when you're in the room with an artist. So something that I like to do for the viewers at home is just get an a cappella that is roughly in the BPM and in the style that you're composing a beat for. Today I've got West Side Gun and I've just pitched it down so we don't get demonetized. I'm just going to apply that to my beat to see if we're in the right place. We've got a lot of busyness on the first downbeat, but on the second bar, it's a little bit more open. So that's really where the vocal should sit. And then the only other thing that I've done is just applied a little riser into a reverse riser to give it some noise, and then the crash just to add some brightness to the start of that noise there. And that's our beat. I'll give it a play in its entirety in the outro of this video. But Mirelle, thank you so much. I hope I didn't let you down. Let the audience know where they can find you.
You can follow me everywhere at MirelleTheGemini and expect more content, more beat breakdowns, and also live streams from me. Also songs with other artists.
Awesome stuff. Thank you once again. And to the audience, thank you for being here. Let's give this track one last play. And if this video was helpful, you want to see more guests in future, or you have ideas for future episodes, do let us know in the comments. If you haven't already, do hit that subscribe button. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time.
Everything gonna be finished. Pouring champagnes over scale slide, we did it. Aventadors on tour. So many guns on me, you would think it's war. Not at all, I'm just paranoid. Parent jumping fair Wayne, we them Vera boys.